Welcome to Blinded by Science, a podcast appreciating all things science. I'm your host, Anthony Nanfito, sci-fi writer and educator. But for this podcast, you can think of me as your science ambassador. I'm fascinated with the scientific process, the knowledge it reveals to us, and I want to share my appreciation of it with the world. Now, let's get to the science. Hey listeners, thanks for tuning in and welcome to another episode of Blinded by Science. Before we start, there's a few things I want to share with you. First, I want to give a huge thank you to everyone for listening to the show. I greatly appreciate it. There's more content to come, so stay tuned. Second, I want to give you a heads up. I've decided to make some changes to the frequency of episodes. From now on, I'll be posting regular episodes every other week. And when I have time, I'll post bonus episodes like this one. I've got some extra obligations and responsibilities on my plate at this time, so it makes producing weekly episodes a bit challenging. But have no fear, I'll keep making great content just for you. Hence, this week's bonus episode. For this bonus episode, I'm going to do an extended edition of Science Did What? There's just so many awesome things happening in science that it's difficult to choose one story for a full episode. So I'm going to share some headlines of awesome science news with you that didn't make the cut in previous episodes. Also, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think of the episode so far or what you want to hear in future episodes. Send me an email at nanfitospace@gmail.com or send me a message on Twitter at wordsbyfifi or on Instagram at haikubyfifi. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's get into part one of Science Did What? The part of the show where I share amazing science stories and discoveries happening right now. For this bonus episode, I'm going to keep things brief. I'll give you the headlines and my reaction to it. All the links to these stories will be in the show's description if you want to read them in detail. All right, let's get to it. From NASA.gov, New Horizons spacecraft answers question, how dark is space? Quote, how dark does space get? If you get away from the city lights and look up, the sky between the stars appears very dark indeed. Above the Earth's atmosphere, outer space dims even further, fading into an inky pitch black. And yet even there, space isn't absolutely black. The universe has suffused, feeble glimmer from innumerable distant stars and galaxies. End quote. Okay, so this is just fascinating because we look up at the night sky most nights, I would say. Even if you're not really looking at stars, you kind of notice that it's dark and it seems almost black. But what we forget is that galaxies and nebula and stars, they all produce light. So the sky really isn't as dark as we think it is. And NASA's New Horizons spacecraft is helping us answer these questions. So check out the story if you want to learn more details about that. From sciencemag.com, shocking discovery. Electric eels hunt in packs in Amazon rivers. Quote, when darkness comes, electric eels emerge from South American river bottoms to attack their prey with up to 860 volts of electricity, enough to kill a person. Now, scientists have revealed the snake-like fish don't always go it alone. They hunt in packs, similar to wolves, orca, and some species of tuna. End quote. All right, so this sounds like it's from a sci-fi horror film or maybe something that Dr. Evil would dream up of. Electric eels are scary enough on their own, especially when you consider that they can attack their prey with 860 volts of electricity, which can kill a person. Now we learn that they hunt in packs, so there's more than one that might come after you. So if you're swimming out in the South American River, maybe be a little careful, okay? If you want to learn more about this story, you can find the link to it in the show description. That's all for the first half. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll return for part 2 of Science Did What? Hey, it's Anthony here. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Science is all about collaboration. If you've enjoyed what you've heard on the show, share it with a friend so they can enjoy it too. Science is all about sharing and keeping others up to date. All right, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to everybody's favorite segment, Science Did What? The part of the show where I share amazing science news and discoveries happening right now. So let's get back to our headlines. From usatoday.com, new photos reveal massive canyon on Mars, the largest in the solar system, NASA says. Quote, slicing along the Martian equator for about 2,500 miles, the canyon would reach from New York City to San Francisco if placed in the United States, according to NASA. The canyon floor sinks 7 miles into the surrounding plains. That is as deep as some of the deepest parts of the Earth's oceans. It is the largest canyon in the solar system, and new images from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter reveal details about its colossal size. End quote. Okay, so for those of you that didn't know, Mars already has the largest mountain, Olympus Mons, which is the largest in the solar system, and now it boasts the largest canyon too. This is pretty fascinating. Not just the size of it, considering it would stretch from New York City to San Francisco if you placed it across the United States, but also how deep it is. The floor sinks 7 miles into the surrounding plains. I think what'll be interesting is if we can get some rovers or maybe some astronauts into that canyon to kind of see what layers the canyon has. For more on this story, you can find the link in the show description. From Medical Express, nanoparticle drug delivery system developed to treat brain disorders. Quote, in the past few decades, researchers have identified biological pathways leading to neurodegenerative diseases and developed promising molecular agents to target them. However, the translation of these findings into clinically approved treatments has progressed at a much slower rate, in part because of the challenges scientists face in delivering therapeutics across the blood-brain barrier, BBB, and into the brain. To facilitate successful delivery of therapeutic agents to the brain, a system of bioengineers, physicists, and collaborators at Brigham and Women's Hospital and Boston's Children's Hospital created a nanoparticle platform, which can facilitate therapeutically effective delivery of encapsulated agents in mice with a physically breached or intact BBB. End quote. Well, that was certainly a mouthful. So these neurodegenerative diseases, we've gotten better at understanding them, but we've had trouble treating them in this case and in this story because of the blood-brain barrier, which is kind of a protective barrier for the brain. And in this experiment, these collaborators of bioengineers and physicians have kind of discovered a nanoparticle platform that can facilitate the delivery of these agents or treatment for these neurodegenerative diseases. And this is really fascinating to me because I feel like we're getting closer and closer to the medical technology that we see in Star Trek. We've already got things similar to like a hypospray, which kind of just, if you're not familiar with it, it just kind of, quote unquote, magically distributes drugs across the skin without a needle, which I think is just really amazing technology to develop. And I hope that, we can develop these technologies in an ethical way. Lastly, we're going to end with the astronomy picture of the day. Yes, I know it's a bit of an odd choice for a podcast, but I want you to check this out. And for the people listening on YouTube, I've got you covered with an image on the screen. On December 27th, 2020, NASA posted Cosmic Latte, the average color of the universe. Here's their explanation. Quote, what color is the universe? More precisely, if the entire sky were smeared out, what color would be the final mix? This whimsical question came up when trying to determine what stars are commonplace in nearby galaxies. The answer depicted above is a conditionally perceived shade of beige. In computer parlance, number FFF8E7. To determine this, astronomers computationally averaged the light emitted by one of the larger samples of galaxies analyzed. the 200,000 galaxies of the 2DF survey. The resulting cosmic spectrum has some emission in all parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, but a single perceived composite color. This color has become much less blue over the past 10 billion years, indicating that redder stars are becoming more prevalent. In a contest to better name the color, notable entries included Skyvery, Univage, and the winner, Cosmic Latte. End quote. Okay, so what's cool about this story is it connects back to the first story I mentioned about how dark is the universe. So here is an actual image that kind of displays that the universe really isn't as dark as we think it is. And when we take all that starlight and kind of compose it into one single picture, we get a nice shade of beige known as Cosmic Latte. If you haven't seen this picture, I encourage you to check it out. You can find the link in the show's description. That concludes this episode of Blinded by Science. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Again, I'd love to hear from you, so let me know what you think of the episode so far, or what you want to hear in future episodes. You can send an email to nanfidospace@gmail.com, or send me a message on Twitter at wordsbyfifi, or on Instagram at haikubyfifi. Hey, it's Anthony here. Thanks for listening to the show. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying creating it. If you want to help support the show, consider leaving a review on iTunes. This helps increase the show's rating and its discoverability so others can appreciate science too. All right, let's get back to the show. Thanks for listening to this episode of Blinded by Science. This podcast was created by yours truly, Anthony Nanfido, using Anchor.fm. The theme song is Crimson Fly by Huma Huma. The logo was designed by myself using the app Over with image credit to nasa.gov. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the podcast on the YouTube channel Nanfido Space, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To support the show financially, learn how to subscribe, or listen to previous episodes, visit anchor.fm/blinded by science for more details. Until next time, I encourage you to find the science in your life and share it with me on social media. You can find me on Twitter at wordsbyfifi. Tag me in your posts and show me the science you've discovered. This is Anthony Nanfido signing off, and remember, stay curious.